Welcome along. My name is Andre. I'll be talking to you today about this year's Men's Health Week subject, building healthy environments for men and boys. First of all, I'd like to start by acknowledging the Noongar people as the original custodians of this land on which we are presenting today, and pay our respects to their elders past, present and future. We extend that respect to Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders people here today. We also have a little disclaimer that the information discussed in this webinar is general in nature and does not take into account specific personal situations or circumstances that you may be experiencing at the moment. You should consider whether the information is appropriate for your needs, and where appropriate, seek professional help. For anyone that's experiencing crisis at the moment, they can contact Lifeline on 13 11 14 or emergency services on 000. So as I said, welcome along. Today's seminar is focused on men and boys and the health and well-being of males in our community. So a little bit about us. We are the 4Dads program run by Relationships Australia WA, and we're based in Mandurah. We service Mandurah and Pinjarra area, and we provide counselling services for men who have or care for children. We provide services to men and children to facilitate interaction, like barbecues, breakfast club, playgroup, and other activities in the community like DIYs and the like. We also provide parenting education support services to dads, which means any kind of parenting courses that are available. We try to focus those on the needs of men with children. So as I said before, Men's Health Week is this week. It's an annual celebration focusing on the health and well-being of men and boys, and this year's theme is building healthy environments for men and boys. It's coordinated in Australia by the Western Sydney University under the Men's Health Week banner. So today I want to focus on 4 aspects of life. The personal, all about yourself. The family, your relationship with your family. Your relationships at work, so what your work life looks like and how you manage that. And finally, we'll talk about social, so the way you interact with your mates. So personal, this is the relationship you have with self. And self is everything about you. That includes the talk that you have between you and your inside working, your conscious mind. And the way you feel about yourself. So I want you to think right now, how are you feeling? Do a quick check-in. Are you happy, sad, confused, angry, disappointed, fearful, in despair, excited? Could be any of these things. I want you to ask, who am I? What is my self-talk? What am I saying to myself? What's going on in my head? What am I thinking about? And what are your self-beliefs? What do you believe about yourself and the way those beliefs affect your life? And finally, the big one, which men like to avoid, is emotions and feelings. So understanding your emotions and feelings will help you to understand who you are in yourself much better than avoiding those emotions and feelings. Now, This leads me on to masculinity. A big issue in Australia for men is how masculinity or the male is stereotyped, and the expectations that we put on ourselves to act in a masculine way or be in a masculine way, and the kind of things that are expected of men. So masculinity can mean a montage, a big array of things, and can't really be specific to one kind of explanation or one stereotype. Generally, we say that, you know, a man is the strong man of the house, that he works, a man doesn't cry, doesn't show much emotion. A man is expected to look after his family and be there in more of a financial way than an emotional way. And so we have this kind of disconnect between the role of a man as a caregiver, in that we believe the man is the provider and not there necessarily to caregive. So I need you to think for a bit. Who do I role model myself off? Do I role model myself off my mates, my dad, my granddad, the Australian stereotype? Where have I got these expectations from? How have they came to be? And are they still valid? Are they valid today in 2022, or are they antiquated? This leads me on to making personal choices. So the second part of who you are as yourself. So who do you rely on to help you make choices? Can you make them on your own? Do we rely on others to help us or influence us in our choice making? And how does that look? And what influences do you allow to persuade your choice making? Are they influences like TV advertisements, expectations from work colleagues, you know, expectations of your partner, of your children, of whoever it might be? And whose opinion is important to you? So these opinions that we get, and we get many opinions throughout the day, all affect us in some ways, but we make a choice to accept them or not. In making choices, we can be guided or led by peer pressure. And this is, you know, an expectation from your friends to do things in a particular way or act in a particular way and make decisions in a particular way. Is it about saving face, so looking good to other people and not embarrassing yourself or not being judged? Avoiding judgment. So sometimes people make poor decisions because they want to avoid judgment, when actually the good decision may get judged by some, but in the long term is the right way to go. And finally, keeping up with the Joneses. Why do we need to be like Steve, John, Mary? Why do we have to be like these people? Are we happy being ourselves with what we have? One of the big issues for men around the world, and a lot. A big issue in Australia is male isolation. Isolation is to be separated from others. So not interacting with other people or keeping to yourself, but also not talking to other people, not telling people how you feel, the things that are happening in your life, what kind of things are affecting you or how you might act. Isolation is a big problem because it changes the way we think. So when we're active with other people and involved with other people, we begin to think differently because we're getting social cues from other people about how you're acting and the way you're explaining yourself and carrying yourself, your body language, your facial cues, and the emotions you express. So some stats. 1 in 5 men in Australia suffer from anxiety sometime throughout their life. When we think about it this way, it's quite high numbers. And anxiety is a normal emotion or a normal feeling. The feeling of anxiousness can be quite debilitating at times, but can be managed as well. And it's not an embarrassing thing when you think of 1 in 5 that anxiety is actually quite normal. Common reasons why men suffer from poor mental health have got to do with a number of factors in life. So your personal history of harm, how you might think of yourself, disruption to family by separation or divorce, disputes and other things, and problems in relationships with your spouse or partner. These can all lead to poor mental health, which might lead on to depression or anxiety, and in some cases, deeper psychological issues. It's interesting to say that less than 30% of men with mental health complaints seek help in Australia, which is quite low. So if we're thinking of, 1 in 5 men in Australia suffering from anxiety, and then only 30% of them, or up to 30% of them, seeking help, it's quite low. We've got to ask ourselves why we do this. So is it to save face? Is it about embarrassment? And what are the choices you're making for not doing so? Unfortunately, in Australia, every day there are 7 men who suicide. And these numbers are really high. These are avoidable suicides. Well, all suicides are, but in particular, with men, if men have the opportunity to discuss the way that they're feeling and the issues that they're experiencing, it's likely to reverse the thoughts, the suicidal thoughts, and the actions of doing so. So checking in with your mates, your family and all is really important. And we want to try and avoid these 7 suicides or reduce the number of suicides Australian men have each day of each year. So men's favourite topic, emotion. So emotion is described as a strong feeling deriving from one's circumstances, mood or relationships. And we have a huge array of emotions. They number in the hundreds. And we know some and we use them quite regularly. But by increasing our knowledge of emotions, we can start to explain to people or show people the exact way we feel. So we might be happy, but what type of happy are we? Are we excited? Are we joyous? Are we honored? If we're sad, are we upset? Are we angry? Are we experiencing sorrow, loss? If we're angry, are we frustrated or feeling judged or anxious? There's a whole lot of emotions that fit into the basic emotions, which are happy, sad, angry, fear, and disgust. So always check in and try and give a name to the emotions that you're experiencing. With this in mind, I want to ask, what do you do to self-care? What are your activities away from the family, away from work, away from the mayhem of day-to-day life? What is it that you do that gives you time to yourself just to enjoy an activity and to unwind? These can be things like bike riding, gym or other sports, reading, computer games, getting out into the man cave, doing DIYs, going out for lunch or dinner, going on holidays, whatever it might be. Think about what you do in your downtime. And they can be short activities like having a bath or, sitting out in the sun, enjoying the day. They can be simple. They could be planned, like going out for a big long car drive, going dirt bike riding, and many, many other activities. Okay, we move on from the personal, the self, to family now. And I want to ask, what is family? What is family to you? The thing with family is that it can be many things. Your family might be you and your partner. It might be the traditional family, mum, dad, and the kids. It could be dad and kids and mum and kids separated by divorce or family separation. And this is quite normal to have two parts to the family. So you have the time and the idea of family with dad and the kids, you and your kids, and their mum and your kids as a separate family. But keep in mind that your kids are always part of your family. They are your family. Then we go on to stepdads and your kids' partners. So those of you who are divorced and re-partnered, what role as a stepdad do you play? And what part in their family do you take? We've got two dads and kids. And finally, we've got grandparents and their grandchildren. So now we move on to your relationship with your partner. And we've got a little bit of a checklist now. I want you to think about how often you talk, and not talk about whether the rubbish has gone out or the dishes are done or if the kids are safe or whatever. It's about telling your partner how you're feeling, telling your partner about your wants and desires, telling your partner about your plans, plans together for the future, and reminiscing the past. Then we go on to openness and honesty. So what is it to be open and honest? How is it that you talk to your partner, and what do you tell him or her? Are you open? Do you tell them what's happening? Or do you try and construct a nicer looking version of what actually happened? Now, we've got the word emotion coming up again. So are you able to express emotion to your partner? Are you able to tell them exactly how you feel and let them know? Can they see it from your body language or your facial expressions? The tone of your voice, the words that you say. And lastly, do you enjoy spending time together? And what kind of things do you do? Do you go out on dates? Do you go for coffee together? Is there a ritual or a a habit that you've fallen into that you both enjoy, like going out into the backyard with your coffee in the mornings and just having a chat? Think about the things that you do and the importance that they have on your relationship. Next, we move on to me and the kids, or dad and the kids. And think about the way that you connect. So quite often as dads, we fall into this category of going off to work, or the habit of going off to work early in the mornings, or at odd times when the kids are still asleep or off to bed. And then we get home after a long day and we're tired and hungry and just wanting to relax and downtime. But our kids are looking for our attention. They want to be part of your life and they want to spend time with you. And how do we do this? And there's a number of ways. Playing is super important for kids. Getting down and playing their games and being part of their games is very, very powerful. When you get time, it's great to go on daddy dates, just with one of your children, plan a date and choose an activity that they want to do and go off and do that. Now, this could be anything from going to Bunnings together or getting your hair and nails done with them, or going shopping for new clothes, or fishing together, whatever it might be. But the important part of daddy dates is doing what the children want to do and not what you want to do. Bedtime is a great time to spend time with your kids. So bedtime stories for the younger kids are super important. This is a time that you can let your kids know how much you love them and want them to be healthy, wealthy, wise, happy, and enjoying your company. There's always sports times and different various activities that you might do together, like hobbies. I said fishing earlier on. Doing these hobbies and going to sporting activities and getting involved is really important for kids. And although it may not seem it, just sitting side by side on the couch is super powerful and a great way for us to interact with our children. Now we move on to work life. And the big thing about work is that it takes up so much of our time. And what's the work-life balance we manage? Do the hours you have after work allow you to spend time with your family and friends? Are you in the position where you can leave work and not worry about tomorrow or what happened today? Is there an opportunity for you to talk about it and debrief before the day ends, or with your partner briefly when you get home? And are you able to wind down from work? These are important considerations to have, because if we can't, then we're stuck in work mode all the time, which means that we can't be focused and present with the activities that we're doing after work. So when we're working, quite often we're working with other people, which means that we have to do some type of teamwork, or interacting with other staff members or colleagues or clients regularly. So to work well together, we need to talk regularly. We need to express our feelings. More so, we need to listen to what our colleagues have to say, to understand things from their perspective and what they're experiencing. And also be open-minded to new experiences. The world is ever-changing and faster, it seems. So when we're open-minded, we're able to experience the world in a healthy way and work better in teams. It's all too easy in work environments to get caught up in toxic behaviour. So toxic behaviour is contra teamwork. It is about separating and making divides and isolating people from being part of your team. And so we always think that it's best to treat others as you expect to be treated. So if you expect to be treated in a particular way, it's likely that your colleagues are also expecting to be treated in a particular way. And then we've got the choice to avoid disputes. So disputes can be healthy, but when they get out of hand, they turn unhealthy. And quite often we get involved either by accident or purposely, but when we don't need to. And this can be detrimental to our work-life balance. Okay, we move on to the final interaction, which is social. So you and your mates. I want you to think about how you connect, what kind of activities you do, the way you talk to each other, and the way you interact. So quite often we get so busy with family and work that our mates and time with our mates is very limited. It's super important though to maximise the time that you do have and plan this well. So think about where you meet and how often you meet. Regular catching up with friends is important. It gives you an opportunity to de-stress, talk about what's going on in your world, to be open, to build relationships with other people so you're not isolated, and really get out and about in the world to see new things. Think about what you talk about. Is the conversation that you're having quite shallow? Conversations about work, what's going on at work? Or is it about the way you're feeling or new projects that you have or things that you're looking forward to? Asking your friends for opinions or guidance in something that they may have experienced that you're only just experiencing, what their feelings are towards certain things. These are all healthy conversations. So how much do they really know about you? Are you closed and guarded? Do you keep to yourself? Why do we do this? So I challenge you to be open with your friends, to let them know who you are, who you really are, to let them see the things that you might hide, and really express the way that you feel. So this leads to, can you talk to your friends about the feelings that you have or you experience? When we can express our feelings and the way that we experience them, we're better conveying to our friends what state we're in, so that they know how they can be of help. When we open up, especially to our friends, the opportunity to become isolated is minimalized. With avoiding isolation, we then avoid suicidal thoughts and the issues that lead up to and include suicide. So talk openly with your friends, catch up with them when you can, talk about everything and don't be guarded, and be there to listen to them as well. It's important that we check in with our mates regularly, even if it's just a quick text message or a quick phone call, just to say how you're doing. So opening up to your mates, and things that we've talked about already is be open and honest, be supportive of what's going on in their life, let them know how you feel, be encouraging, be emotive, listen to what they have to say, and beware of your reactions. If we react in a particular way, and our friends take offence to it, or they feel like they're being belittled or put down, then they may not open up to you again, or they may feel that that you're always going to judge them because of your reactions. So be aware of your reactions, and convey them in a way that is friendly and not aggressive. Check in regularly to see how they're going. We talked about this just now. A quick text message takes no time, and might mean the difference between them being able to see you again or not. A big issue with men around the world, but particularly in Australia, is anger and aggression. With bottling up emotions, we get to a point where we are no longer able to express ourselves, and so where we are triggered in some way. I want you to think about, what are the triggers when you are getting angry? Do you feel a rise of temperature, increased heart rate? Do you feel heavy or full in your head? Do you get stiff in your body? How is it that you react when you're starting to get angry? And what emotions are driving the behavior? So we talked about a long list of emotions earlier. Think about the emotions that really drive the behavior, because without emotions, we have no behavior. Behavior is always a reaction to the emotions that we feel. So once you've gotten angry and you're starting to be aggressive, do you lose control? And what manner do you lose control? We've mentioned this already. How's my breathing and heart rate? Always monitor this. When you become aware of your breathing and your heart rate, you're better equipped to change the way you feel. And it might then lead to the last point, which is, do I need a timeout? Now, timeout's not like what we say to the kids, go sit in the corner. but it's similar. So do I need to step back for a second and take a deep breath in and think about what's happening? Give myself time to think or calm down. Do I need to actually walk away and excuse myself from the situation and say, hey, I'll be back to discuss this further. But for the moment, I need some time to myself. I need some time to think. There are healthy ways to have timeouts and to avoid aggression and anger, but we need to become aware of what's happening. So this leads me to the idea of flipping your lid. So we have our brain here, and our brain is made up of many different parts. We have the prefrontal cortex, which is this front part, and the prefrontal cortex is our thinking brain. So this is where we are able to make decisions, make sense of the world, be able to weigh up different situations and scenarios healthily in order to make good choices. What happens when we get angry and what we say flip our lid, is that we start thinking with our primal brain, our amygdala. And this is a part of our brain that is very, very basic. Its purpose is to keep us safe and out of harm. And when we think with our amygdala, we act on instinct. So we either fight, which is as it sounds, we freeze, which means that we shut down and we're unable to do anything, or we flee, run away from the situation to keep ourselves safe. What we need to do, and this is where the timeout comes into play, is to be able to drop the lid. So we're then thinking with our prefrontal cortex again, with our thinking brain. If we can achieve this, we're always going to get a better solution to the issue at hand, which means that we're going to get a better resolve. So final notes. These points are across the 4 different types of being. Talk and listen. So listen 60% of the time and talk 40% of the time. And you'll always have good conversations, healthy conversations. Check into your emotions regularly and be aware of the state that you're in. Let the important people know how you're feeling. You don't need to go around telling everybody how you feel, but it's important that we let those people that really matter know that we're feeling a particular way. So your partner or your mates, even your children at times, it's fine for them to know that you're angry or sad or happy or excited. Let them know how you're feeling. Make time for connection. Making time to connect with other people, be it at work, at home, socially, is really important and stops us from being isolated. And being open-minded to new or difficult experiences is super important as well. When we're open-minded, we're able to accept the world more freely, and in the long run, have a better life. So here I've got a list of numbers for you that you can call on if need be. Lifelines there, suicide callback. The 4 Dads counselling line is there, and this is by appointment. Kids helpline, alcohol and drug services, mental health, emergency response, and crisis care. I'd like to thank you for listening today. You can find us on Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn at Relationships WA, or you can visit our website at www.relationshipswa.org.au. Thanks for listening in.